All right, well, we're waiting for things to start. I see that there is a hand raised, and just to see if there's a technical issue, Mike Bullock, I'm going to unmute your line. Please let us know if there's a technical issue. If you have a policy or program question, I would like to ask that you reserve that until later on in the meeting. But let me open up your line. Do you have a technical question to ask? Your line's unmuted.
No, I don't. Thank you for asking. And I'm just willing to, I'm anxious to say some things. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Yeah, we'll have plenty of opportunity for Q&A as we get through the presentation. Thanks.
All right, so it looks like the rate of attendees jumping on has slowed down. It hasn't completely stopped, but we'll get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Sam Greger. I'm with the California Air Resources Board, and you guys are here today to talk about the California e-bike incentive project. Before I pass it over to Sean Ransom, who's the lead staff on it, we're excited to be here. We know that many of you are eagerly anticipating us launching this program. Some have even been a little frustrated with the length of time. What we're trying to do is work well with the program administrator to make sure that when we finally do launch, everything runs smoothly and the folks that are trying to participate get into the program easily and successfully without any glitches. So with that, I will pass it over to Sean, and he will start the work group.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sean Ransom. I'm lead staff for the California e-bike incentive project. And just a couple of house cleaning items. Wanted to let everyone know that we are offering live translation today for Spanish. And so we're just going to go over the instructions real quick, and we will be breaking out the work group into a English room and Spanish room. So simultaneous interpretation is being provided, and you can access this feature by clicking on the globe icon located at the bottom of the screen. So if everyone can go to the bottom, it should be right in the middle. There's an interpretation button, and there you can choose for the English, you can choose English. And if you're accessing Zoom from a smartphone, look for the 3 dots on the bottom right hand of the screen, and you can choose your language interpretation there, and press done at the top right side of the screen when you've completed that selection. I'll now pass it over to our live translator, Angie, for the Spanish instructions.
Bienvenidos. Interpretación simultánea en español estará disponible para hispanohablantes. Deben seleccionar su idioma. So, entrando a Zoom por computadora, haga clic en el símbolo del globo terráqueo en la parte inferior de la pantalla y seleccione español. Apague el audio original para solo escuchar una voz. Entrando a Zoom por teléfono, haga clic en los 3 puntos encima de la palabra más en la parte inferior derecha de la pantalla. Seleccione interpretación y seleccione español. Haga clic en finalizar arriba al lado derecho de la pantalla y podrá escuchar solo la voz en español.
All right, thank you, Angie. Okay, so let's give folks a minute to transfer rooms, and we can begin. Okay. Let's go back to slide 2 quickly. So good morning, everyone, and thank you again for joining our public work group. And before we get into the details, just wanted to mention a couple things. This meeting is being recorded and will be available on our meetings and workshop webpage in about 2 weeks, including the agenda slides and attendee list. If there is malicious intent to disrupt the meeting will be ended and rescheduled, and staff will send out a new notice. And we will drop a link in the chat where this information can be found. Let me drop that. Oh, that might not be. Okay. All right, next slide. So today's work group will discuss a proposal to hold multiple application windows for the California e-bike incentive project and solicit feedback from stakeholders. I will also mention that we are not proposing any other changes today. And to date, we have not had any issues with regard to the soft launch regions and project criteria, which we will touch on in later slides. All right, next slide. Okay, so just going through the agenda, going through our introduction now. We'll go through our general information for the California e-bike incentive project. We'll have a Q&A section after that. And then we'll go into the multiple application proposal and have another Q&A. And after that, wrap up the next steps and end at 11:30 this morning. All right, next slide. Okay, so just jumping into the general information here. This project aims to provide incentives to low-income Californians to help purchase electric bicycles, also known as e-bikes, to help those that cannot afford cars, along with reducing vehicle miles traveled. In the following slides, I'll provide an overview of the project criteria, including eligibility, incentive amounts, and current status. After that, we'll present the proposal for the change to the statewide launch of this project. So starting with the first bullet here, previous allocations include 13 million and an additional 18 million approved by our board in November for a total of $31 million for this project. Eligible applicants can receive a $1,000 voucher towards the purchase of an e-bike and accessories such as locks, helmets, and safety equipment at the point of purchase. An additional $750 is available for cargo and adaptive e-bikes. And an additional $250 is available to priority applicants, which I'll describe in the next slide. We also have a $5 million set aside for priority applicants. This set aside will ensure the lower income applicants have greater access to project funds, which aligns with our goal of making this a needs-based program. So overall, the maximum amount a participant could potentially receive is $2,000. Class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes are eligible, and both brick and mortar and online purchases are eligible towards approved retailers. All retailers must have one of the following, including for e-bikes exclusively sold online. And that would need to be a corporate office in California, a storefront presence in California, products sold in California storefront, or California-based manufacturing of the e-bikes. All right, next slide. So this slide details the project eligibility for applicants. The project is limited to low-income Californians who meet the following criteria. So all applicants must be California residents, 18 years of age or older. All applicants must meet the income threshold of 300% or below the federal poverty level. Priority applicants, as I mentioned in the previous slide, must either have an income at 225% or below the federal poverty level, or they can reside in a disadvantaged community or in a low-income community as defined by Assembly Bill 1550 and Senate Bill 535. And so this table below gives examples of those income thresholds for different household sizes. The values are from the most recent guidelines for 2024. So for example, a household of one, a base applicant would need to make $45,180 or less to be eligible for the program. A priority applicant in a household of one would need to make $33,885 or less to be eligible. And we have up to a household of four listed here for everyone's reference. All right, next slide. Okay, so this table outlines the incentive amounts based on the type of applicant and type of e-bike that we went over in the previous slide. So just going down the list, for example, an applicant who has a household income at 300% or below the federal poverty level and applies for a standard e-bike, they would be eligible to receive $1,000. So going down to the next column here, a priority applicant or someone who has a household income at or below 225% of the federal poverty level or resides in a low income or disadvantaged community is eligible to receive $1,250 for a standard e-bike. We also have cargo and adaptive e-bikes listed on this table. And so a applicant who makes 300% or below of the federal poverty level is eligible to receive $1,750 for a cargo or adaptive e-bike. And priority applicants would receive an additional $250 to receive up to $2,000 for a cargo or adaptive e-bike. And as a reminder, base applicants with a household of one would need to make $45,180 less, and priority applicants with a household of one would need to make $33,885 or less to be eligible. Okay, next slide. Okay, so just going through the current project status. Currently working through the soft launch phase, and this includes working with communities across California. The soft launch aims to provide robust outreach to residents through work with local community-based organizations. This includes resources and application assistance, provide a wide variety of e-bike options for both online and brick and mortar retailers to choose from. And the soft launch also will help us test our systems and address any programmatic issues ahead of the statewide launch. We expect to see approximately 100 applications from the soft launch. And currently, staff and the project administrator have begun expanding outreach and retailer networks. This includes onboarding e-bike retailers throughout the state and working with community organizations both through the project and our CARB program, Clean Access, Clean California. And this work will help ensure that the California e-bike incentive project is providing California residents with a wide range of e-bike options to fit their needs and opportunities to prepare applicants for the statewide launch. All right, next slide.
Okay, we're going to move into a short comment and question period, allowing folks to ask questions on background and information presented thus far. As a reminder to ask a question, please use the raised hand function. If you're calling in by phone, #2. When I release your line, please make sure you state your name and affiliation before asking a question or making a comment. Looks like we've got several hands raised, so I will ask that folks keep your questions or comments brief so that we have an opportunity to get through as many of them as possible before we go into the next portion of the presentation. With that, I'm going to open the line for Mike Bullock. Your line is unmuted. You can unmute on your end.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much and good morning. And I appreciate everything that you've presented. I think you've done a good job of figuring out how to do this from a means-based standpoint. Of course, I'm a member of the public who's calling in, so of course I'm going to have suggestions as to what maybe wasn't perfect about your presentation so far. And I would say this, that we live in a very unique time, and people are not clear about that. You know, Secretary General of the UN says we have a code red climate emergency. This is related to that climate emergency. And people need to be aware that there is this climate emergency. So you need to maybe make that case. He says we're dangerously close to the point of no return. And of course, everybody that works at CARB, and hopefully everybody that hears my voice, knows exactly what he's talking about. He's talking about climate destabilization. And we're confronted with a stabilization requirement date of 2030. So that's 2030 is the last thing we should think about when we go to bed, and when we wake up, that's the first thing we should think about, 2030, because climate stabilization is such a profound requirement that we have. And CARB wrote probably the most important plan that's ever been written in the history of the planet. And it was released at the beginning of 2023. And because it's so important, that also needs to be brought into your introduction here. And I'm talking about the CARB scoping plan, and it is a plan to achieve that 2030 climate stabilization requirement. And so California's SB 32 is actually the legislation that created that date, but that corresponds to what the IPC is trying to do at the COP meetings, the Committee of Parties. And so this is all a very profound, very unusual. It's almost like a science fiction movie. It can't be real. We're trying to not go extinct and end most life forms on the planet. So that really factors directly into what you're trying to do, because these electric bikes that you ultimately give away, I guess everybody knows about the Internet of Things. Well, these bicycles should be things which are tied to the Internet of Things. And the application should be looked at. It's just not just means-based. I have no problem with the means-based part of it. You're doing a great job there. But then the next criteria that you should use, obviously, is to reduce vehicle miles traveled. I guess everybody understands what the scoping plan said. I said that was the most important plan that's ever been created. I'd say that because California is the fourth largest economy in the world, and the United States of America doesn't have a plan. They say they have a plan, but when you look at the math, they haven't done it. When you look at the CARB plan, the scoping plan, you have done the math. You don't show the math, but you got the right answer. 25% reduction vehicle miles traveled by 2030. That's the thing that we think about constantly, 2030, because it has to do with human survival. Are we going to do it or not? How are we setting up our kids? You know, or should we be having babies? I mean, what is going on? It's profound. And so this 25% reduction in vehicle miles traveled is what we have to do. And therefore these bikes that are given away need to be reducing vehicle miles traveled. You know, if they're sitting in somebody's garage and they're not using the things, you want them back. And also, if they're using them just to joyride on weekends, you want them back. What you want is these electric bikes to reduce vehicle miles traveled. So I think that's a good start. So I appreciate very much the opportunity to speak. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, let's move along to the next speaker. I've got G. Teeter. Your line is unmuted on our end.
Hi, good morning. My name is G. Teeter. I'm with the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. I just had a question in regards to incentive stacking. The San Francisco Public Utilities Commission is offering an e-bike rebate to our utility customers, and I'm just curious to see if our incentive could be stacked on top of the CARB incentive. Thank you.
Yeah, we do allow stacking. So if the programs do align as far as the application windows, applicants are absolutely allowed to stack those incentives.
Okay, great. Next speaker I have is Tom Lent. Tom, your line is unmuted.
Hey, I'm really excited to see this rolling out now. And I have two quick questions. This is Tom Lent, e-bike project coordinator for Walk Bike Berkeley. Number one is earlier you'd mentioned requiring that online retailers have the ability to support repair and maintenance locally. I didn't see that in the slide today. I'm wondering if that's still a part. I believe that is an important function that we not make sure that online purchases are not left stranded. And my second question, I'll ask them both, and you can ask them both, is and whether you can share with us where the soft rollout is occurring.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, so for the first question, yeah, we are looking at ways to help support the maintenance and ownership of these e-bikes through online purchases. We don't have a exclusive requirement that be part of the sale, but we are looking at, for example, third-party vendors or mobile mechanics that might be able to provide that support for, say, rural applicants specifically. We know there's a lot of kind of retailer deserts throughout California, so we are looking at ways to make sure we can support those applicants throughout the ownership of their e-bike.
Great.
For your second question, soft launch regions, we are working with a community in San Diego, Barrio Logan, and Fresno, the Bay Area, and we're working with the tribal governments throughout California. We don't have an exact list right now, though, for the tribal governments.
Great, thanks.
Okay, the next hand I've got is Brian Dodds. Brian, you are unmuted.
Okay, thank you so much, and thanks for the presentation, everybody. My name is Brian Dodds. I'm a program manager at the San Joaquin Valley Air District. Couple quick questions, and I'll just ask them, and then you can respond for me. The slide that had the incentive levels talked about low-income DAC community residents getting, I think, $1,250. It didn't have an income tier there, so I'm curious if just residents in low income and DACs can receive funding regardless of their income status. Second question was just an offer that if we can help in any way with the soft launch. We have several AB 617 communities here in the Valley that I'm sure would be very much interested in trying to provide assistance in getting this program off the ground. And then third question was just like how the dealership recruitment is going, and if you've seen participation throughout the state, particularly here in the Valley, where there definitely does seem to be a lot of interest in this particular program. That's the extent of my questions, and thanks so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Okay, so for the priority applicants, that is a or statement. So they can either make 225% or less of the federal poverty level, or live in a disadvantaged community, or live in a low-income community. And so those aren't stackable in any way. That's just a one-time $250 increase in the incentive amount. For the outreach, we will absolutely connect you to our program administrator after the meeting, and we can get you guys set up with the outreach team. And we have a whole host of materials that we can provide, and also there's other opportunities to kind of coordinate with them. So we'll connect you with them. The retailer onboarding is actually going really well. So I think currently we're up around 200 brick and mortar retailers across California. So I haven't really heard too much, if any, kind of reluctance to be part of the program. We've gotten a lot of excitement from retailers being part of this. Yeah, so thank you, Brian.
We'll also post the link to the website in the chat. And on there, there is a map that has the retailers that have currently been signed up.
All right. Let's go to the next speaker is Colin Clark. Colin, your line is unmuted.
Hi there, good morning. Colin Clark from Contra Costa Transportation Authority, Transportation Planning. Appreciate the work that's being done here. Several questions, if I can, is which of the CTAs, the county transportation authorities, were collaborated with in developing this type of program, and also, which specific people at each CTA is being coordinated with in terms of outreach and awareness to kind of amplify the messaging from CARB as the program moves toward implementation and rollout from the 100 pilot to the more expanded program. I'd like to ask about what kind of format of follow-up will there be with the recipients of each e-bike subsidy in terms of a survey of some kind online, and what sort of ongoing data sharing agreement is each recipient agreeing to in writing, and if that could be coordinated with the CTAs, that would be appreciated. Over the life of the e-bike, in regards to the first caller's comments in regards to tracking VMT, for example, reduction. It was mentioned about cargo bicycles as an opportunity to receive a subsidy, and I'm wondering, number one, if CARB, which methods are they going to be able to track the type of e-bike and the different specifications of e-bike, and also how many commercial businesses, for example, versus residents are the recipients of different grants. If there's contractors and the like that are implementing energy efficiency projects in relation to the Inflation Reduction Act and IIJA and some of the transportation infrastructure projects in terms of commuting trips, to what extent can some of those trips be captured, and would we have some sort of way to document that, and also just trying to understand if there's any sort of preference, priority, or tracking of businesses versus residents, and how the business community is being outreached to by CARB. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Colin. This is Lisa McCumber, the branch chief over the program. We are absolutely happy to coordinate with CTAs, and to the extent that if you're engaged in these types of programs, or you've got other colleagues that you work with that are engaged in these types of programs, that we can connect offline and get those relationships going. We would absolutely be open to and happy to do that. So, outreach for us in that particular space really is partly word of mouth. So I'm really glad you found us, really glad that you came today and made your comments. And we're looking forward, I think, to connecting a bit more and chatting with you. And then I'll let Sam or Sean chime in, I think, to respond more directly to your data questions and what we'll be collecting.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, Colin. So we are using surveys in our program, and those are just kind of some general questions. The two overarching goals of this program are to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and vehicle miles traveled. So we are trying to capture that the best we can. We're also working with UC Davis Institute for Transportation Studies to do an evaluation on the program, and they're going to do a more in-depth evaluation of use cases for these e-bikes. So they've created surveys and additional questions for us to really hone in on how these e-bikes are being used. That will be through both surveys and GPS diaries for folks that want to participate in this study. And so, yeah, we would be able to separate out those cargo e-bike and standard e-bike use cases. To the extent that we can, we'll be happy to share all of that information with, it'll be public record. So, there was a lot in there. Let me know if I can hone in on anything else for you there, Colin.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Happy to connect offline. I'm not sure if you have easy access to my contact info from registering for the event, or if there's a different way you want me to share it. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, yeah, we have the list. So yeah, we can reach out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Colin. Let's see, just a quick recap on where we are with time. It's 10:34 right now, or sorry, 10:35. We've got about 10 more minutes left for Q&A for this portion of the presentation. There will be more opportunities at the end. There are 17 hands raised, and we've got some questions that have come in online. So safe to say we're not going to make it through all 16 hands now, but I'm going to open up the line for Matt Petrovsky. Your line is open.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Matt. I work for the County of San Mateo. I was just curious if the income limits are going to be strictly based on the federal poverty limits, or if there's going to be any adjustments based on applicant home location. That's it. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Matt, for that question. For the general entry or eligibility for the program, yeah, an applicant would need to make 300% of FPL or less. But then as far as the receiving additional funds, like an extra $250, that could be because you live in a disadvantaged community or a low-income community. So I would also mention that we work grouped this process, this kind of framework for the program, and that's how we came to this consensus on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next is Charles Rohr. Charles?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. You guys, thank you for your time today. I appreciate this. My name is Charles Rohr. I am just a citizen. I'm not affiliated with anyone for the comments and questions here. The question I had was actually a pretty simple one, and maybe it comes up later. Feel free to interrupt me and pass the time on if that's the case. So there are different thresholds with income to meet the different requirements. And I'm curious as to when that income is, if it's going to be based on your last tax filing or if it's projected futures. I asked just for, in my personal case, I went through a drastic change and it's going to, change me from one bracket to the other. I've been eyeballing this thing for a long time and I'm really excited about it and the potential. And I'm just kind of curious about myself where I might fall in that. I'm sure someone else might have questions too based on that. And that is my only question. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Charles, and great question too. So it is the previous year of your tax returns of your filing. So in this case, yeah, 22, 23.
Okay. Before I call the next name, I'm going to go ahead and pass over to Sam Gregor to review some of the questions we've received via email.
Yeah, we have 3 emails that have been sent in. First, how firm is the spring launch? Launch has been pending since 2023. We are pretty firm that we're going to get the launch in the launch the program statewide in the next couple of months, pending the outcome of the slides that Sean's going to go through with regard to funding windows and how we can build that into the system currently. But we're hoping the next couple of months. We're pretty firm. Couple of questions on how many people live in a low-income household and if there are limitations. As long as the members in the household meet the minimum requirements, so 18 years and older, and the income limits, there are no limits on how many people within a household can receive a voucher for an e-bike. I will note that it is 1 e-bike per person in this program, so you can't apply for more than 1 per person. And then the last question was how to sign up for the soft launch. Right now, we're really getting applicants through the community-based organizations in which we've contracted with. And the purpose of that is not to get a lot of people into the application process, but to really refine the application process. So that's how you would sign up for the soft launch. If you're not located in one of those areas, what I'd ask you to do is go to our website that I posted the link in, sign up for email alerts. You'll be notified prior to when the statewide launch happens and also when the statewide launch will happen. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Sam. All right, let's see if we can get through a few more folks. For the next speaker, Patty Breslin. Patty, you're unmuted.
Hi, this is Patty Breslin from San Leandro 2050, and I've got a couple questions, and I'll go quick in the interest of time. So the first one is, how do I, as a community-based organization in San Leandro, ensure that our community gets the information out? So is that incumbent upon me as a community-based organization, or exactly how will folks be informed as the public at large? Question number 1. Number 2 is, if I discover or we discover that there is not a good nearby retailer, can we impact the addition of a retailer or 2? And I just want to clarify that you have to, so the base requirement is 300% of poverty level. And so simply living in a DACRA LIC is not sufficient. That's all I got. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Patty. Okay, so for your first question, kind of going to the responsibility of your community-based organization and reaching your local residents. we have an outreach team and as part of the program administrator who's really trying to reach the folks that need e-bikes the most. So I think to best answer this question, the answer would be that we would work with your community-based organization. We have a whole suite of outreach materials. We're not able to, the program administrator is not able to go in the community on their own. They would absolutely need your help and understanding how to reach your residents the best. And we do that in a couple of ways. So we have the suite of outreach materials we can pass on to you. You can distribute. We also have some micro grants available for CBOs that need additional capital to kind of, create that capacity for that outreach.
Mhm.
So you can come on as a contracted CBO and maybe even do a little bit more deeper level of engagement and outreach. And that's pretty much the extent of what, how we could help, how we could coordinate. But certainly let us know and we can connect you to our outreach team and we can get that started, and absolutely interested in reaching those residents. The second question, I'm not clear on the impact retailer. Could you just provide a little bit more background on what you mean by that?
No, all I'm asking is, so if we discover that residents want to participate in the program and are looking for a nearby retailer, somewhere near them, and we aren't finding that, that we are not close to any of the currently existing brick and mortar stores, is there a way to impact to increase? Can I suggest a particular dealer, dealer that would be interested in the program and that they be added to the program?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. And was there a third question? Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, just verifying that it's the base requirement is 300% of poverty level, that it's not simply being in a low income or disadvantaged community.
Yeah, and you'd be correct in saying that. Base level 300%. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Patty. We're gonna just do one more for now, and then everybody else, I'm so sorry. We'll have you keep your hand up and I can continue on in the order that we have you when we open back up for comments and questions after.
You were a winner.
So they would have said,
okay, so the next speaker, sorry, one moment, is Zachary Pitts. Zachary?
Hello, my name is Zachary Pitts. I'm a resident in Los Angeles, and I apologize because I don't know as much about this program, but I'm curious. I have two questions. How long is it, given the funding that you have right now, how long is it expected to, or how many people is it expected to serve, and how long will it take until you expect the funding to run out? And then second, just because there's so many advantages to e-bikes and we're working so hard on getting people out of cars, and this may be a legislative thing that you're not allowed to do, but is there any plan to expand it to other income brackets, the incentive?
All right. Yeah, Zachary, thanks for your question. So to your first question, how long is the program expected to go? How long will the funding last? Currently, we don't have any allocations other than what we have currently. So it would depend on kind of the next few slides on what we talk about, how we kind of split up these application windows. So currently, we just have one application window set up, but we're proposing to extend that into multiple application windows, kind of extend the program out with the funding that we have, possibly out to a year over the course of, say, 3 to 4 application windows. The current funding that we have it kind of depends on the mix of cargo e-bikes and priority applicants and standard e-bikes, but we're thinking it's probably going to be around 15,000, give or take 5,000 one way or the other. So potentially 10 to 20,000 incentives.
Okay, thanks, Sean. All right, I'm going to pass back to you for the next part of the presentation.
All right, so that was a perfect question to ask. Zachary, it segues us right into what we were just talking about. Okay, so as I mentioned, what we're here for today is to talk about a proposal to have multiple application windows. And just to kind of level set, what I mean by that is with our current funding, splitting up that funding over a couple different application windows over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. So currently, our current approach on the left side of the slide, this would be 100% of our total funding available in one window. The funds would be immediately available, for everyone. That includes just meeting the high demand that we know is out there and getting funds to applicants in one window. What we're proposing today is the multiple application window approach. And so, like as I mentioned, splitting up that funding over the course of, say, 3 to 4 application windows over the course of 6 to 12 months. And we believe that this will really affect the applicant experience. So providing more opportunity for applicants to apply, providing opportunities to fine-tune the project in between windows. So maybe that's incentive amounts, or maybe that's we need to re-examine the income thresholds, for example. And finally, having additional application windows allows for more robust outreach to people throughout the state. So that gives us a little bit more time to go out with our CBO network that we're developing for the e-bike project and really reach those folks who need the e-bikes the most. Okay, next slide. Okay, so following on that slide, I'm just going to go through 2 examples here, and then we'll go to the Q&A. But the first example would be to split the funding into 3 application windows over the course of the next 9 months. Each window would be approximately 3 months apart, and each window could be on a different day of the week or even different time of the day. We would definitely work with stakeholders, solicit feedback from potential applicants on what that structure might look like. And then also, I would note that we include applicants on a limited wait list as well. Okay, next slide. And then the second example, it's very similar to the first example, but I wanted to add another layer for consideration here. So the first and third window would focus on all applicants, but then for the second window, as I mentioned before, because we have a $5 million set aside built into for priority applicants, we would focus one of those windows specifically on those priority applicants or applicants who make 225% of federal poverty level or below. This might help us, to really focus our outreach on those priority applicants and really let them know to come for that second window, for example. And I would also mention we would have wait lists for these windows as well. Okay, next slide.
All right, thanks, Sean. Now we will open it back up to comments and questions. As a quick refresher, please use the raised hand function. We do currently have a dozen folks or so left over from the prior Q&A session, so we're going to start with those. Again, state your name and affiliation before you ask a question or make a comment. You can also email questions and comments to the email box. And I will remind folks that the meeting is scheduled to end at 11:30 today, and so we will get through as many comments and questions as we can. Please remember to keep your questions and comments brief so that we have an opportunity to let as many folks speak as possible. With that, I will open up the line to our first speaker, Floyd Vergara. Floyd?
Yeah, hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, great. Thanks for taking my call, Floyd Vergara. Just private citizen, no affiliation on this particular topic. And I apologize for my lack of knowledge about this program. It's not one that I've tracked, although I am a very enthusiastic e-trike user. So I don't know if this is within the scope of this rulemaking, or perhaps you can do it administratively or in the next rulemaking, but I had two questions. One is, are these vouchers or subsidies able to be applied to individual powertrains that could be retrofitted onto a bike? I know there are a great many folks who are more than capable of installing these themselves. They're not, they're not Teslas. They're, if you could swap a wheel, you can basically install your own e-bike powertrain. I think this would be useful for example, stretching your limited funds. You can get a lot more e-bikes out there. You can even have multiple e-bikes per household for the cost of one whole e-bike. So that's question one. Does it only apply to whole e-bikes, or can it be used to purchase and retrofit an e-bike powertrain? And then the second question is there an effort to incentivize the resale for secondary market of used and refurbished e-bikes from rideshare services like Lime? So happy to clarify any of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Floyd. Yeah, and I'll just quickly mention fellow conversion e-bike kit rider. So absolutely understand all of your points. The issues that we ran into with conversion kits, one being potential liability of installations, faulty workmanship, and then also the guarantee of those conversion kits being installed on a bike and not being just potentially resold. So all that to say, we're not allowing conversion kits, unfortunately, at this time. And then as far as used bikes, we talked through this and kind of similar conclusions with concerns, around say battery capacity or just general wear and tear to the e-bike. We assume at a base level an applicant doesn't have any experience buying an e-bike. So to present them with used e-bike opportunities, there may be unforeseen issues with the e-bike they're not able to identify. How do we help them with that purchase? So we arrived at the same conclusions there. We're not going to allow the used e-bikes at this time.
All right. Thank you, Sean. Thanks, Floyd. Our next speaker is Cyrus Hall. Cyrus, you're unmuted.
Good morning. My name is Cyrus. Thank you so much for holding this Q&A. I'm a sustainable transportation advocate in San Francisco. And my question is around if there are any requirements around the language that local municipalities use to advertise the program. And I want to give a little bit of context there. Earlier this year, San Francisco passed, I believe, the first ordinance in the state that bans the charging of non-UL and non-EN devices inside after the ordinance goes into effect. And it won't surprise anyone on this call to learn that non-UL rated bikes are mostly what folks who are lower income are riding around the city. And so they're now facing a situation where they will not be able to legally charge their batteries or bikes inside. And particularly for those living in multifamily units, the fire department is sort of pushing and hoping that landlords will enforce this new ordinance. So advocates would like to develop a trade-in program where it could be advertised, hey, come bring your non-UL compliant bike in, trade it in for a UL compliant bike you can charge inside. So it would be wonderful to be able to advertise around this program to folks who are now stuck with a bike that they either have to illegally charge indoors or have to try to charge outdoors, which of course is theft prone. So any feedback there would be absolutely fabulous. Is there any block from using the program in that direction?
Cyrus, yeah, okay. I'm not aware of this regulation happening in San Francisco. I'm definitely interested in connecting with you after this meeting to learn more about this. I will say we do have a 1-year ownership requirement of the e-bike, so folks would need to hang on to that e-bike for minimum 1 year. After that, yeah, I suppose potentially it could be eligible for a trade-in. But yeah, there's so many questions about UL, and this is interesting. You're talking about charging in a private home, I assume? Just to clarify.
That is correct. So the fire department, and particularly the fire marshal, were really pushing to severely limit all e-bike charging indoors. And a bunch of us, including e-bike retailers, formed a sort of ad hoc alliance and pushed back. And where the regulation ended up is that UL and or European spec bikes are okay. But non-UL rated bikes are no longer okay. After there's a 6-month window before the ordinance comes in, but once it comes in, that will just be against city code, misdemeanor. And the hope seems to be that landlords will enforce it, which has its own whole host of problems I won't go into. But advocates, we all understand that there are non-UL rated bikes out there that are more of a risk around charging, especially some bikes that are bought online. And we'd like to take as many opportunities as possible to encourage people to trade those in and get UL rated bikes. But particularly if folks are low income, they've invested a big chunk, and they're going to need a subsidy to make that upgrade.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. I would encourage us, if you're up for it, we can connect offline here.
Let's connect offline.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Thanks so much, Cyrus, for raising the issue. Okay, our next speaker, Jean Severinghouse. Jean?
Hi, good day. I'm a resident and have been an advocate of e-bikes for the last 10 years, and I'm in the low income bracket. And I'm dismayed, I guess is the word, by how low the incentives are, because I think it's incentivizing the cheapest bikes that could potentially have problems with UL ratings or components that wear out fast. And I'm wondering what kind of research you've done on what this price point, who can afford that? Because I'm just looking online and there's a bicycling magazine review of cheap bikes under $2,000. Well, if you get, $1,250 or $1,000, you've got to come up with another $750 to $1,000 yourself. So I'm wondering what kind of research shows that this price point will help. I can empathize with the desire to get more bikes out there, but are we really doing right by people to incentivize cheaper bikes? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Gene. I'll just comment that we did have implementation work groups, and this was part of the public process to come up with these incentive tiers. We have had our program administrator look at the overall market and see what kind of market offerings are coming in. You know, we are balancing trying to help as many folks as we can while still trying to get quality e-bikes out there. And we completely hear you on that point. This also speaks to another advantage of the multiple application window. If this is really not working, we can revisit this and make potential adjustments down the line for future windows.
Great, thanks. Our next speaker is Susie Frazee. Susie?
Hi there, my name is Susie Fraze. I am the owner of Pedigo Electric Bikes in Upland, California. We have quite a few dealers here in California, I think, that are on the program. We're looking forward to it. I do have a couple concerns. One of them is that I believe you said that online retailers are going to be part of the program. I thought I read that it had to be brick and mortar. The problem that I see with online dealers sending the bikes out is that people need to learn how to ride the bike, and especially safety wise. So I'm not sure that if you have somebody online sending an applicant a bike, my concern would be that there's no training there, and that might cause for safety. And I thought part of the program was that we were going to be providing safety for those people. And then to tag along that somebody had just brought up the UL certification, that is huge right now. And there are quite a few e-bikes out there that are not UL certified. That's for the batteries as well as the electrical components of the e-bikes. So that's something that you may want to look into. I know New York has come down super heavy. They're closing all the stores that are not UL certified. I don't think California is going to be there right now, but that's something definitely to look at. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Susie. So yes, we are allowing online retailers to participate. Two parts to that response also. One being that we do require the e-bike to come fully assembled to the applicant. So that either needs to happen through an e-bike, or sorry, retailer, or through some sort of third-party vendor who can go out to that person's house, assemble the e-bike for them. So there will be a touch point of interacting with an e-bike mechanic or professional in some sort of capacity. We also require applicants to watch a safety video that we've developed for the program. And so this is everything you would need to know about e-bike maintenance, riding on the roads, e-bike, best practices for charging, things of that nature. And then we are following UL requirements very closely, UL 2849, and the European requirements and everything that's going on in New York, of course. We will, we're definitely taking away a lot from this work group today. So we'll follow up with more questions if we have any.
Okay, and one more thing I did forget to mention. We do a lot of service in our shop. One problem that we come in contact with almost every day are people coming in with their bikes that they did get online, and there's nobody to service them. Most e-bike shops will not service anything but their own bikes. So I see that could be a problem. We are one of the shops that do, because we feel like we can help them. But the problem is oftentimes we cannot get the parts for those bikes that they did purchase online.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that input. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not as easy to wear one.
Okay, our next speaker is Laura McCamey. Laura?
Hey, this is Laura McCamey from CalBike. And I have a bunch of questions and some comments, so I don't know if you want to take them one at a time, but I want to start with the battery standards. And just to point out that there is a bill in the legislature right now that would require all, I'm hoping I'm getting this right, that would require all e-bikes sold in California to have batteries that meet either EU or UL standards. And it's sounding from, I know there was discussion of this in prior work groups, and there was some discussion of requiring all the bikes that qualified for this program to meet one of those standards, the batteries. And it sounds, Sean, like that's not true. That bikes could be bought through the program that don't meet either of those standards for the batteries. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We did look at the list of available UL bikes. Currently, the current market offerings. That's it. It was a pretty limited list at this point in time. We estimated around, I would say, less than 5% of the market offerings, and we're talking about 15,000 to 20,000 incentives. Is it possible for 5 to 8 brands to support that many e-bikes in the course of 1 month? So we had some concerns around that. There's also considerations, I think, to make for the manufacturing process, how these batteries are being produced, specifically in the battery construction of how they're put together, what kind of resins they're using. There's other things beyond UL that can provide safety that we know that manufacturers are out there doing currently. So,
well, I just wanted to throw in that the bill that's in the legislature doesn't limit it to UL. They also allow the EU standards, which I think any manufacturer that sells in the European Union is going to meet. And I've heard from manufacturers that opening up to that it's basically equivalent to the UL, and that might open it to a wider range of manufacturers, and that will be in alignment with potentially something that might become law in California. So I just wanted to throw that out as something to consider, the UL and EU.
Do you happen to know the bill?
You know what? I'll find the bill number and I'll email you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Lori.
So I had a bunch of thoughts and questions about the multiple application windows. I'll just start with my comment, which is I like the idea of multiple application windows. I don't think it's going to slow it down, honestly, because I don't think the administrator can hand out 15,000 vouchers in a couple of weeks. It's going to take time, and I think it will probably go more smoothly if it's broken down into smaller windows. I think it will increase equity because as the program rolls out, there'll be more awareness. The word will reach deeper into the communities that CARB is really looking to serve with this. My one concern is, I think if you're going to do a 3-part rollout, for example, you need to set hard timelines for each application window and stick with them. Because if multiple windows start stretching out, because I know this launch has taken longer than anybody, and I'm sure including CARB, would have liked to actually come to fruition. And if the multiple windows start stretching out, I think people are going to lose faith in the program, and it might be hard to get future funding. And I just want to say CARB has been incredibly supportive, including that 18 million in this year's budget. And we want to see that support continue. Part of what CalBike is really interested in is continuing funding so that this program can become an ongoing year-over-year program. So just want to say that I think the timelines have to be really firm. So I had a few questions. Would people who didn't get a voucher or get onto a wait list in one window be able to apply again in the next window? If some vouchers aren't redeemed in the first couple windows, would those funds be rolled back into the program so that would increase the funding available and later? I know people will have like 90 days to use the voucher, and I know sometimes for whatever reason, someone who gets a voucher isn't able to find a bike and redeem that voucher. Would those funds then be available to other applicants? So those are my 2 about that.
Yeah, and just quickly want to just acknowledge, your comment on clear deadlines for these application windows. And that is the absolute intent here. So clear expectations set for all of the potential applicants, stakeholders involved at this project over the course of the next year. So with that said, the idea with these multiple application windows is to have all of the vouchers settled before we start the next one. So we are working internally to figure out what that timeline looks like. So all the accounting is settled before we move on to the next voucher. So anyone who, didn't make it in time or is in a waiting list or funds have dropped out for some reason and need to be reallocated within that window, all of that, those types of accounting is settled before we move on to the next window. So we have a clean slate, so to speak. We know who's on the waiting list to be eligible for the next window. And we know that all the funds have been expended in that first window.
So I'm sorry, just to clarify. So you're saying, let's say somebody applies in window 1, they get on a wait list. Before window 2 opens, some funds get rolled back because somebody doesn't redeem their voucher in time. Would that person on the wait list get the voucher before window 2? Like they would just get a voucher when it becomes available?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming people can apply in multiple windows if they don't qualify and if they're not, don't make the cutoff in one window. They can
Yeah,
apply.
absolutely. We want to give them all the chances they can possibly have.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm.
Thank you both. Okay, our next speaker is Gabriela Gomez. Hang on one moment. I'm so sorry. For some reason, it is frozen, not allowing me to unmute you. All right, I'm going to ask one of my co-hosts to pop in. Sam, can you see if you can unmute Gabriela Gomez? For some reason, I am frozen.
Yep. Let me. Mine is not working either.
All right, apologies, attendees. We ran into a freeze on Zoom for some reason. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, let me.
I think it has. No, it is not yet. It looks like it is starting to come back to life, though.
You want me to give it a shot here, Lisa?
Yes, go for it, please.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything happen here.
Yeah, the system seems to have locked up on us. Apologies, folks. This is out of our control. I'm going to continue to troubleshoot here in a moment. If I can get this line to open up. It's not allowing me to open up any lines. It looks like the entire... Oh, wait. Here we go. I'm able to open up the line for the next speaker. And while I continue to work on Gabriela, I've unmuted Jeff Rock. Jeff?
Yes. Hi, this is Jeff Rock. So I just had a basic question. I'm a road bike guy and have been riding road bikes for the last 20 years. And I'm looking forward to having a e-road bike because I'm tired of doing hills as I get older. However, it appears that road bikes are going to be excluded from the program because most road bikes do not come with powered lights. So is that going to be something that excludes me from purchasing the bike that I would like to have?
Yes, Jeff, at this time, yeah, we are requiring the front and rear lights for the bikes to be eligible for this program.
Okay, do they have to come from the factory? If you can wire them to run off the battery, is that acceptable?
Yeah, they need to be integrated or part of the bike at the point of purchase.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
No road bike for Jeff. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Okay, let me try. Gabriella, I'm going to try for you again. And it is still not allowing me to unmute you. And I very much apologize if if you don't mind sending your questions or comments to the Clean Transportation Incentives at arb.ca.gov email. I'm not sure what the technical difficulty is on our end. I will continue to keep your hand raised and try to offer you an opportunity again the next time. Next person for now is Kyle Chitak. Kyle, your line is unmuted.
Hi, I'm Kyle from Area 13 e-bikes. Also have a large YouTube channel all about e-bikes called Area 13. I've put out quite a few videos on this program already, just kind of trying to share the information with the public and get the word out. I just had a quick question or clarification. You kind of touched it on it already, and it was about the allowing both retailers and online, and you said fully assembled, and you said there'd be a third party involved. So if somebody's selling online, is the requirement that there's going to have to be either a shop that it's delivered to or a mobile mechanic or somebody other than the customer receiving the bike that has to set it up? Is that the way I'm understanding that?
yeah, that's correct. Yeah, the bike must be delivered fully assembled or received by the applicant fully assembled. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding the fully assembled part of it correctly. And for the last gentleman, there's a few road bikes with lights, not a lot, but reach out to me if you need help finding one. So, thank you.
Hey, nice. Thank you, Kyle.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. All right. Next speaker, Lamar Parks. Lamar, you are unmuted. And Lamar, you'll need to unmute on your end as well.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Thanks, Lamar.
All right. My name is Lamar Parks with the E-Bike Safety Project here in San Diego. And my question is, so far as the education and the battery safety training and all that, is that just going to be the online video, or is it going to be more interaction with the potential customer to get that knowledge, about the e-bike riding, safety issues, and battery care? Because that's kind of what we're doing in the community already. But is that going to be the only requirement? Is a video that we're talking about?
Yeah, Lamar. Yeah, as far as requirements go, that is the only requirement. But this is something we encourage our CBOs to include in their outreach if they have that sort of capacity and expertise in the subject to potentially provide those ride and drive events or just events that familiarize folks with e-bikes in general. But yeah, as far as requirements go, it's only the safety video that we've developed as part of the application process. Yeah.
Okay. And final, what do we do to get associated as a CBO?
Yeah, we can connect you with our outreach team at Pedal Ahead, and they can give you a rundown of everything we have to offer and coordinate with your CBO.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Lamar. All right. Next speaker, Juliet Bond. Juliet?
Hello, good day. My name is Juliet Vaughn. I am with the Redwood Coast Energy Authority. We also are, we've developed an e-bike voucher program. We are waiting for the state's program to launch so we can stack ours with yours. So we're very excited about the launch. I wanted to comment quickly on the windows. A lot of folks have been waiting and for this program, as you all know, but our local bike shops have stocked up inventory. Manufacturers that supply those shops have been stocking up inventory, and then folks in the community have been anxiously waiting to the point of lots of phone calls and lots of explaining to do on our part. as things keep getting delayed. So I can't encourage you enough to just not let the perfect be the enemy of the good and get this program launched. I would suggest the one window, and I think you're going to have a wait list that will be about a mile long, effectively making multiple windows one window if you're going to honor the folks on those wait lists. And then if you're going to cut off those wait lists, I think you're just really looking at one giant window, whether you break it into 2 or 3, because I think your wait list is going to be huge. The other thing that I wanted to comment on is certainly this UL listing. In our program, we're requiring only bikes that are UL or equivalent listed. I am surprised to hear that the state hasn't gone this route, given all of the issues with fires and concerns. We would be extremely concerned about market spoilage for e-bikes as they begin to roll out and become a more common element on our roadways in an effort to reduce vehicle miles traveled and get people onto e-bikes. We can't be having so many problems that cities are going to pass laws to ban them in buildings and so on. So I think just saying there's other technologies that other bike companies have come up with, I would wonder how proven any of these are. And I just say you can't take this UL listing seriously enough with these uncontrolled fires. I also wanted to comment again about the internet sales. I see that as very problematic. We had an e-bike program in 2020, and the internet sales were hugely problematic for all of the bike mechanics. And it's not just parts they couldn't get support. And so when you're supporting, not all, but a lot of these internet sales, that's just the one-time sale that they are most concerned about in their business model, not the ongoing operations. Whereas a brick and mortar shop has to face the folks that they sell bikes to and keep those bikes on the road. So I still think that you all have to be extremely careful with how you are going to allow that. And again, we would support, I think, one window. I think it's also going to be challenging if you change the within the same program, if you change the incentive amounts partway through. I think I don't think that's going to be received well by folks who got in before or didn't. I would encourage you more to just see if you could, like someone else said, refund this year after year, so folks could, as the outreach keeps going, people would know they would have a chance next year and the following year and the following year. So this is not just a one-time thing. So I guess we just can't encourage you to launch this program fast enough. I think you've done a tremendous job, and nothing in the world is going to be perfect the first time out, but people are ready for this. We are ready. People across California are ready. So I think that's really more of a comment than question. And, we'd be happy to also talk with anyone on your team. We've got our program fully ready to go. We are ready and waiting. So yeah, again, just want to encourage you to get the program launched, and I would do it in one window. And I just wanted to also mention that it seems like from within you could prioritize the priority applicants through your application itself. You could move them right on up to the top of the list internally versus trying to have separate funding cycles where you only work with the super priority folks versus everyone else who's income qualified. So those are my comments. And again, we are happy to be a part of any discussions you all would want to have. This is our second time with our program, and we have closely followed yours, and we are ready to go. Thank you.
Thanks. Did you say Redwood Energy?
Redwood Coast Energy
Redwood.
Authority, and
Okay.
happy to drop an email into the chat. I mean, we had extensive conversations with our bike shops and also other program managers who had run programs before when we developed our project. So we have a lot of we would have a lot of insights to offer if, should you be interested.
Yeah, absolutely. We should absolutely connect offline. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you can send that to the email that's on the presentation right now, that'd be fantastic. I have seen a lot of emails come in, and I just want to let everyone know that we will respond to them. So thank you for your emails.
Yeah, I'd also
Your
like to
comments.
say that the major bike manufacturers have several models. So I'm not sure where you came up with this less than 5%. If it was about, less than 5% of manufacturers out there, including online bikes, then that's really not, I think, an accurate representation, because there's been an explosion of online e-bikes since they started to have a really good market share. But I would say when you're looking at major bike manufacturers, they have several bikes models within their product availability. So I'd be more curious about how many bikes they think they have in stock that are available to the market versus how many actual manufacturers are UL listed out there or not, you know. So I would be more concerned about how many actual bikes there are available, not, you know, this flurry of it's easy to make an inexpensive internet bike because you don't have to care if there's a fire or if it can be maintained, right? It's more difficult to make a quality bike that's going to serve people for a long time, which is what we want. We want to keep these things on the road. We don't want someone to have a 3-month toy that then becomes a piece of trash. So it's like incredibly important that you really look hard at your internet sales concept. And again, the bike shops that are going to be responsible for maintaining these things, it is almost impossible. It is so difficult with the internet sales to have them be responsive in terms of parts and or service, no matter what they tell you. Anybody in the beginning can tell you anything about how the remote service is going to work. You know what? It didn't work with Rad Bikes. It didn't work with other internet sales. It simply did not work. So I'd just be so cautious about your approach with these internet bikes. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Juliet.
Thanks, Juliet. Sean, do you have next step slides that you wanted to cover really quick?
I do. Yeah, we're running short on time here.
That's right. That's okay. Why don't you go ahead and wrap up real fast?
Okay. So yeah, just moving forward, currently implementing our statewide outreach and retailer onboarding ahead of the statewide launch. We're expecting to have a actual launch date at approximately April of this year, and then the statewide launch in Q2 of 2024. All right, next slide. Yep. There we go. And that will conclude our presentation today. Again, my name is Sean Ransom, lead staff here for the California E-Bike Incentive Project. Sam Greger, my supervisor here. And any other questions, please email us at ebikeincentives@arb.ca.gov. And that brings us right to
folks whose hands. Yeah, unfortunately, I think we are out of time, and I know that there are still about a dozen hands or so raised. I'm very sorry that we did not get through all of the hands raised, but please send an email either to the Clean Transportation email address or the e-bike incentives email on this page. And for those that did send questions already, we are going to work hard to get responses out to everybody within the next day or two. We appreciate the questions. We really appreciate the feedback and feedback in particular on the application window proposal that we put out today is essential. So please let us know your thoughts on that. And we look forward to seeing you all next time. Thanks so much, everyone.